Yo, what's up, people? It's your boy, Chris Don One, and I'm back with another live stream, another video. You know what you got to do: rate, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll be in the knowing when my next video live stream goes down. All right, we're going to be talking about the Houston Rockets losing to the Golden State Warriors again. And we're also going to be talking about, you're going to hear a lot of people, a lot of talking heads this morning, this beautiful Saturday morning, start the show off on the reasons why the Houston Rockets lost. It's not about the analytics, because if you look at the Houston Rockets organization, they pretty much done everything in their capabilities to create a team that can advance and go to the NBA Finals, okay? They got the best staff organization money can buy. They got the best, they got one of the best owners, okay, whose mindset is not old school, but, the future. Analytics, player efficiency. Analytics and player efficiency, that's an important part, and people need to get used to it. It's going to be in the league, so, we just can't keep thinking about how the game used to be played. We need to worry about how the game should be played, particularly in the future, all right? So, the Houston Rockets, and also, it's not about, they tried everything, okay? They hired Mike D, no defense, and Tony, which every team Mike D'Antoni has coached, this is as far as they get, okay? You got Chris Paul, okay? You got him in a trade with the Clippers. He wanted to leave the Clippers. Y'all paid him. You got James Harden, okay? You got Eric Gordon. You got a lot of decent players. But at the end of the day, the reason why the Houston Rockets lost, and before I get into it, you had moments. You had Steph Curry was injured throughout this season, had little knick-knack injuries, okay? Klay Thompson was struggling in this series, okay? No Boogie Cousins, no problem. Even though if Boogie Cousins was fully healthy, I felt like he would have been a defensive liability, and he wouldn't have had that much playing time. Kevin Durant went down in the last game, and you lost that game. No KD, no Boogie Cousins, and then you kept hearing the talking heads talking about, oh, well, the Golden State Warriors bench is short. It's not as good as it once was, okay? You had all of those advantages, and the Houston Rockets still lost. Still lost. And at the end of the day, no matter all these analytics and player efficiency and new ways to chart and stat players, all of these training facilities, the different type of training programs, at the end of the day, it still comes down to, and it will always come down to, you have to capitalize on the moments. There are moments in a game, there are moments in series where your team best believe needs to capitalize off of those moments. Not equal the other team in moments, but surpass the other team in those moments. And you need players that can capitalize in the moments too. And that separates the superstars from the stars. From the stars to an average player. From an average player to, a bench warmer. That's what separates them. And I feel like people are they're in a blur on particularly superstars and stars. They feel like they're both the same. Well, they're both the same. Okay, one has super in front of it, the other one just has star. Okay, but at the end of the day, if he's a star and that person's a superstar, well then that star should be on the same stratosphere as that superstar, and it doesn't work that way. That's why there are very few superstars in every NBA generation. And when you're talking about James Harden, and I've been on the bandwagon about this, particularly about James Harden. I feel James Harden is a great offensive scorer, great at what he does. All right, but that doesn't make him a superstar, because to me, in order to be a superstar, you have to capitalize on those moments, and James Harden does not capitalize on the moments. He did this last year and the year before. The best defense in defending James Harden is, forget trying to stop him. Just let him shoot, because eventually he's going to struggle in a series. He's not going to always make those shots. So the superstars, when their shot is not going, they do other things. They assist the team. They get loose balls. They rebound. They defend. They struggle in the area that they're used to. Well, then they have other things that they can dabble into. And when you take James Harden away from shooting, or when he takes himself away from shooting, there's nothing else he can do. And he's good. He's decent as getting his team involved with assists and things of that nature. But when you got Chris Paul on the bench, out there on the court, there's really a leader. So you're gonna need two floor leaders. There's only one ball. Both of y'all can't be floor leaders. Both of y'all can't assist. So what does that mean? I think, and I keep telling people this, there is a difference between being a star and a superstar. James Harden is a star. It's not a superstar. That's not no diss to James Harden. It is what it is. And in James Harden's career, he's not getting any younger. He's getting older. So what you see from James Harden now is pretty much what you're going to see through the rest of James Harden's career. He can't improve in those areas. Okay, you already done gave him his contract. Okay, and eventually James Harden is going to look at himself in the mirror and look at all you guys out there and say, well, this is the best I can do. So many times, we had plenty of advantages to capitalize, to beat this team so many times, and we still can't do it. People kept saying, oh, well, you know what? At the end of the day, they lost KD. Eventually, they're gonna beat the Golden State Warriors because they don't have KD. And I kept telling people, in actuality, it's best. They play better when KD is not on the floor, because the ball moves fluidly. The ball, goes around. It just doesn't, stop at KD while he's at the post, and he's determined whether or not to shoot or throw the ball or pass the ball to somebody else. So this is when you got Golden State's core, when you got Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and the other guys, just another guy. When you got those other guys, AI. When you got those other guys they have a great percentage chance of beating you because the ball moves around a lot fluidly and a lot faster. Okay, it's not one guy. It's not throwing the ball to that one guy. It's throwing the ball to a team, throwing it around two other teammates, and that's what makes Golden State very dangerous. That's why I was never on this hype train of, oh well, they don't have KD, so they're going to struggle against, even if they beat the Rockets. You kept hearing this. Even if they beat the Rockets, they're going to have a hard time with the Utah Jazz and the Blazers. Let's look at that for a second. The Utah Jazz and the Blazers. Utah Jazz has never been there, and the Blazers really only have one player. Okay? I think whoever wins that series, the Golden State Warriors are still have a good percentage chance of beating either of those teams. If the Blazers prevail and win, I feel like it's going to be a short series, maybe 4 games, maybe 5 games. If the Utah Jazz win that series, that series is a possibility that series can extend to a 6 or 7. Okay, and not because of some fact of the Utah Jazz is this juggernaut. It's just a simple fact of it is the Utah Jazz has enough players to be in games because they can score. But they have never been battle tested in the finals. So you really don't know what you're going to get out of those studs over there in Utah. You know, you know, this moment is going to be a testing moment for the Utah Jazz in the rest of their future. They have their core is younger, and while they're younger, they can learn from these events, and they can get better. So when the next time they play the Golden State Warriors or whoever, they will be battle tested. Okay, sort of like the Houston Rockets 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Okay, when James Harden was in his, and he's still in his prime, but when he was a younger person than what he is now. He should have appreciated those moments and expand his game. I mean, yeah, I'm telling you, James Harden can shoot the ball anywhere. Okay, that's not the issue. The issue is James Harden has to be better at other things besides scoring. He's pretty good at assists, but when you already have Chris Paul on your roster, that category is pretty much covered. Okay, unless Chris Paul, like he did last year, got injured and he was out. And I'll be honest with you, when Chris Paul is not there, okay, actually the Rockets play a little bit better. The ball moves a little bit fluently. Okay, because the one thing people always point to Chris Paul stats, but I've been saying this for years that Chris Paul, great floor general, great point guard. Okay, but the reason why, and it's the same elements that plagued him and kept the Clippers from advancing further, are the same reasons why Chris Paul and the Rockets are not going to advance further. It's not all Chris Paul Chris Paul is not the 100% reason why the Rockets are not advancing, but Chris Paul is the reason why if he's a liability on the offensive end. And I'm not talking about he should score 30, but he should always be in the game giving those dinks and dunks at the basket. I'm not saying Chris Paul should be a 3-point specialist. I'm not saying Chris Paul should be a juggernaut in scoring. But and even though last night I felt like they had their better game, they just couldn't do any more because they had their better game. But what about the rest of the team? you have to realize when you got so much money tied to two players, there's literally nothing you can do to fill out the roster. If you max out two players, okay, then it's the same situation with the Miami Heat. Remember when the Miami Heat had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and shoot, I forgot his name. That fast, Chris Bosh. When they had those three, and they didn't even max those guys out, by the way. But when they had those three guys, it Pat Riley had a hard task filling out the rest of the roster. Okay, because and those guys were not maxed. Okay, so if he had a difficult time filling out the rest of the roster, what do you think the Houston Rockets, Daryl Morey, is doing? When you max out two guys, you only have so little money that you could, fill out the rest of your roster. And Clint Capella, I like him, okay, and I think he could be a great asset to the Houston Rockets, but at the same time, he really don't fit that style. I mean, if y'all want to be an up tempo, scoring, not worrying about defense, then why you have Clint Capella? I think if you still got Mike D'Antoni and offense is all what he cares or concerns or worry himself about, then if I was you, I would flip Clint, even though he's your third best player, and on some nights he could be your second best player. I will flip him for some more pieces that can contribute in the offensive end. So now now you can win more games when you have Chris Paul, James Harden. If they still do their average, you can have if you flip him for the right pieces, those other pieces can help and contribute on the offensive end. But like I always say, I don't think this formula that Mike D'Antoni has, I don't think it's a sustainable and a successful formula where you score and you don't really concern yourself about defense. I feel like Mike D'Antoni, he should still enforce that, but have somebody on his staff on those defensive breaks and those defensive moments where you have to have a stop. You just can't have the other team scoring, okay, and you just gonna beat them by scoring. What if you have a night where y'all have where y'all cold, okay? Then you start depending on your defense more. So to me, this elephant in the room, sort of say, with the Rockets, this is the best opportunity the Rockets had of dethroning the Golden State Warriors, okay? And with this series, the Golden State Warriors, the organization, the team, they're looking at it as, even if KD leaves, you see what we did? We still beat the Rockets without KD. That's how they're going to look at this. And if KD is not in the next series, and if they beat, either, to me, if the Blazers advance, that's a 4 or 5 game series. Golden State going to win. If the Utah Jazz win, then I feel like it will go to a 6 or a 7. Okay, but ultimately, I feel like the Golden State Warriors, with their experience, okay, they're going to prevail and beat the Utah Jazz. And now there are reports. Oh, I better turn my lights back on. Now there are reports that Boogie Cousins, is a possibility that Boogie Cousins could make it, could be in the next series. So, and you really don't know about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant could possibly return. He won't be 100%, but he can return. If he's not there at game 1, there's a possibility. You're going to hear through the news wire that he's probably going to return on game 2, which I think that's a better strategy. If it's a mild injury, let him. He already done skipped game 4 of this. Game 4 of this series. And if you can let him skip one game in the next series, that's more than a week. I think if you can get Kevin Durant at 70%, I think that's good to go. All right, he's good to go. Let's throw him out there. Okay, and if you can let Boogie, unless unless the team they face is up on them, I would keep Boogie out throughout this series and possibly have him return in the finals. Okay, because you don't really necessarily need Boogie for this to beat either the Blazers or either the Utah Jazz. So you really don't necessarily need him. You can just keep him, on ice until the finals. All right. But if you really don't need Kevin Durant, you can do Kevin Durant the same way. I feel like if the Blazers win, I feel like the Golden State Warriors are going to keep those two players on the bench and get them more healthy for their next opponent in the finals. Okay? If the Utah Jazz win, then there's a possibility you could see Kevin Durant returning either in game 2 or in game 3. But they'll still keep Boogie on the bench and let him rest more, let him rehabilitate. But basketball, when the Golden State Warriors have a great team and they can beat, as long as they got Curry, Klay Thompson, and I forgot his name, number 23, Draymond Green. As long as you got those three guys, and as long as those three guys are still playing and that ball's moving around, they're gonna win a lot more games than they lose. Okay, as long as you got that core. All right. So, to me, as far as the Rockets go on high, I feel like there's really nothing more you can do for the Rockets. You already got the coach, okay, that placates to that style. All right. You got a second banana, sort of say, of Chris Paul. You got a max contract in him. You got a max contract in James Harden. You already tried to play the refs and this, that, and the third. You already tried to bully the Golden State Warriors, play some dirty defense. Now, when I mean dirty, I'm not talking about chipping and clipping and stuff like that, but a lot of physical defense. And the Golden State Warriors didn't budge off of that. You played every card in your hand, and you still lost to the Golden State Warriors. So I feel like in the offseason, they should be trying to get a third player. One or two things. Either try to get another max player, which is going to be difficult because you're going to have to trade half your roster to do that, or you just give up on the defensive pieces that you have, like Kenneth Fareed, and I forgot Clint Capella. You flip those assets and get more scores, more spot up scores. Okay. JJ Redick, I think he's gonna be a free agent. I don't see JJ Redick. I don't see them getting JJ Redick. The only way they can get JJ Redick is in a sign and trade. If the Philadelphia 76ers already know that they lost JJ Redick, they sign him to a max contract and then trade him to the Rockets, and in return, the Rockets give something to the Philadelphia 76ers. But the only way the Philadelphia 76ers are going to do that is they already know that they're losing. If they're losing Jimmy Butler. If they lose him, and I feel like there's a possibility they will lose him because there are going to be teams out there that's going to overpay on Jimmy Butler. And you guys know how I feel about Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler has been very successful on his name and his storyline. When it comes to his game, you can't depend on Jimmy Butler's game. Okay, that's just me. All right, but I feel like there's gonna be teams that are desperate. They're gonna overpay for Jimmy Butler, the Lakers included, because they gotta have somebody to play alongside LeBron James. I feel like the Charlotte Hornets and the Los Angeles Lakers, the New York Knickerbockers, they're all in this category of we have to have a name playing in our organization. And if we have to overspend and overpay for a name, then so be it. All right. More so the Lakers and the Knickerbockers. All right. If Kevin Durant doesn't go to the Knicks, and I've been saying this since day one, if Kevin Durant leaves the Golden State Warriors, then that was clearly not a basketball decision. That was clearly an entertainment decision. That was clearly an ego decision. Okay. The smart money for Kevin Durant, if he wants to make a basketball decision, he should stay with the Golden State Warriors. Because if he re-signs with the Golden State Warriors, and I've been on the record saying I feel like that's where Kevin Durant is going to re-sign with the Golden State Warriors. I feel like he will continue to win. He will continue to be in the playoffs. Okay. I feel like if he goes back to the Golden State Warriors, they can win 2 more titles. All right. And then, you'll keep seeing them in the playoffs because eventually that team is not going to get any younger. It's going to get older. Okay. They're going to clearly sign. They already signed Steph. Klay Thompson is going to get signed. If they get Kevin Durant, then to me, the odd man out, if you want to, because you can't max out Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and Draymond Green. Draymond Green is going to want max dollars. So there's no possibility that you can max out all 4 of those players. 2 or 1 of those players is going to have to take a hometown discount. All right. And since Draymond Green signed with Clutch Sports, that indicates to me that he wants a max contract. He will get a max contract if Kevin Durant walks and leaves. A lot of people feel like he's going to walk and leave. There's a lot of speculation that he's going to walk and leave. If he does that, fine. But if he makes that decision, that's not a basketball decision. He's going to make the same decision like LeBron James. LeBron James last summer did not make a basketball decision. He made an entertainment decision. All right. He made he wanted his family in La La Land. He wanted to be closer in La La Land because he had other things, other aspirations to explore outside of basketball. Okay. And if Kevin Durant does that, if he leaves and let's just say he goes to the Knicks and somehow he pairs up with Kyrie Irving, I feel like that's a good 1-2 punch in the East. The East is weak. I feel like they're gonna always be either in the Eastern Conference Finals or the Finals with both of them 2 players, but they're gonna run into the same problem like the Houston Rockets. Okay, when you match those 2 guys out, I mean, there's so little you can do with the rest of the roster. And if you look at the New York Knickerbockers roster, there's really nothing there. Okay, that could be a number 3. Or number 4. What's left there is question marks on the other players. So you don't know what you're going to get out of these players. All right. It's a dice roll with these players. So Kevin Durant, there's a possibility if he leaves, that's probably the place he's going to go to. Okay. Probably the place he's going to go to. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and then turn the rest of it off. But that's a possibility where he could go. All right. I'm gonna wrap this up. I was gonna try to make an even 30 minutes. I'm pretty, nobody came in the live stream, that's because it's so early. So if you watch the re-air of this, I appreciate that. Rate, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys on the next one. It's your boy.